Welcome to the LORNA Experience. This is episode 6. Today we have a special guest, Emily Lewis. Welcome to the podcast. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's great to be on here. I'm really excited for today's show.
Yes. Before I get into Emily's introduction, I just wanted to say that the LORNA Experience is the podcast where entrepreneurs and digital marketers can relate to. And we're all about learning, optimizing, being resilient, nurturing our concepts and accepting where we are. And we are now on Deezer, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, which is really exciting. So please follow us there. We actually have a lot of USA listeners. So shout out to all of you guys and ladies, of course. And we, I do ask you, please, can you please follow us? It would really, really help the podcast, and especially on YouTube, if you can subscribe. All show notes will be allocated on my website, which is lornamedia.com. I am your host, Tasha. I'm the founder of LORNA Media. And yeah, today, like I said, we have a special guest, Emily. Emily is just incredible. I've already had a pre-conversation with her and I'm just so excited to have another guest on the show. She's the founder of Twofold, and she's an experienced digital marketer as well. Today's theme is going to be all about freelancing. Okay, Emily has a lot to say about freelancing. But do you want to quickly introduce yourself and or like your background a little bit and what you do?
So like Tash mentioned, my name's Emily. I'm the founder of Twofold, and I'm a website designer. So I work primarily with service-based businesses. I have a marketing background, did advertising as well at uni before going into a freelance career, unexpectedly going into a freelance career, may I add. And then just like a completely non-linear career journey since, really. And I think that's like some of the stuff I think that we're going to talk about today. Now I own Twofold, which is, we build primarily Squarespace websites. So.
Emily's been kind enough to do not just this episode, but the next episode too. So we're going to go to ensure that you're subscribed, because the next episode we're going to learn all about Twofold and how she got into it. But because Emily's story is so awesome, and I feel like, as I said, this podcast is what you can relate to. And her experience in freelancer life has really, honestly, I personally can relate. But also, if anybody is in Emily's situation, this is the podcast episode to listen to. And if you're thinking about freelancer life, this is the episode. However, before we get into the episode, I like to do a little fun intro tradition. And it's all about celebrating us, of course, because we work so hard. Mm-hmm. So, this is Global Entrepreneurship Week. We actually on a Thursday of this. What day do we on? The 15th, the 16th.
I have no idea.
Sorry, I'm just every day is a bit chaotic this week, to be fair. So for Global Entrepreneurship Week, firstly, congratulations on being an entrepreneur. So whoop whoop to us. So we're going to celebrate us. So what are we proud of our success of being an entrepreneur? Do you want to start?
Oh, wow. I think, just even, there's a big question because there's so many little things that make you proud, and having, it's even just simple things where you're having a bad week and you've actually managed to like get out of bed and make an effort this week. Having some resilience is a big win. And then other, like, you can have bigger wins at all. Like earlier this year, I was a finalist for the Young Entrepreneur of the Year at the South Wales Business Awards.
Yes, congratulations.
So, thank you. So unfortunately didn't win, but I'm in my first year of business still, officially with Twofold, and so that was a massive achievement. But yeah, on weeks where you're feeling really low, which can happen, the small wins make a big difference as well.
Oh my goodness, so true, so true. Congratulations, that's so awesome. Yeah, I feel like I can relate. Resilience, like I never gave up. Yeah. I think I'm celebrating that this week, is like not giving up, following my gut, keep persevering. I'm pivoting at a really important part of my career right now, where key partners are, like, I'm building really good key partners and relationships. So I'm celebrating my broader network now. and it's more focused but broader, if that makes sense. It's like expanding more narrowly. And I also, so next week I'm going to be, I've been invited back for the 5 to 9 club, so I'm a alumni of that, and they asked me to speak as a role model, which is one of my bucket lists. This is what I do. What I do is I want to be a role model. So for Big Idea Wales, collaboration with Welsh government. So that's like, for me, that's a pretty awesome win, and to just give back to the community, which is great. You see, this is fun. I was just talking to Emily just prior off camera, and I was just saying of my meltdown of the week, and it says celebrating your week's success, and I was like, let's not go there. Global Entrepreneurship Week. Let's celebrate surviving. Okay, and then I have a second question. Describe your non-negotiable values. What's your most important values?
For me, I've got like a few, and I listed them all out before because I think they're all really important. So one of the things that's really important for me is to keep it simple. Have you ever heard of the thing KISS? Keep it simple, stupid. I love that. And that is kind of like how I approach a lot of things, whether I'm teaching other people or talking to customers, or even how I drive an automatic, not a manual, because I'm like, just keep it simple. I want to get from A to B as easy as possible. And then also transparency is a big thing. I want to be upfront with people, and having great customer service is incredibly important as well. So with respect,
100%. 100%.
You know, as silly as like that is a value in terms of that, it has to be said, but that is a main thing.
Yeah. My non-negotiables is trust. Trust that I'm going to be doing, like, if you've come to me to do something, trust that I can do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why did you ask me?
Yeah.
Because that's just it. Trust is a big thing. Integrity. So again, how you treat people is important. How you treat me, how you communicate with me, and just being a nice person. I think those are my non-negotiables. If I can trust you and you have great integrity, I think we're going to get along.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Regardless, business or not business, that's my non-negotiables.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I said, thank you so much for those questions, Emily. This podcast topic is all about freelancing, okay? And usually when you get in entrepreneurship life, you do start off as a freelancer, and you kind of realize soon enough that, maybe this is not for me. And some people stay in freelancer life, especially as creative entrepreneurs in the creative industry. I read a report that 32% actually stay in freelancer world, which for me, it questioned me to think, why? Are people too scared to develop a business, or is the fact that actually this is where the safety net is, really?
Should I talk about my background, my story, how I came into freelancing?
Yeah, I think that's great.
So like I mentioned at the beginning, it was unintentionally came about. So I was about to I was in my third year of uni, and at that point you get given a few different paths as options, if you want to continue in that kind of career. And I was studying advertising design at USW, which is where we are in the studio. And so, full circle moment completely. So you're getting given a couple of paths, and one of them is, doing the standard, joining an agency or a company and working your way up. And that was the way that I was thinking of going about. The other way is freelance or starting your own business. And I was never really interested in doing that. Anything that was kind of talked about that, I kind of switched off a little bit, because it was like, and that's not going to be my path. I want to graduate. I want to get into a company. I want to stay there. I want to grow and, I don't know, become art director or CEO or whatever it might be. I wanted big ambitions, and that's just not reality.
No.
Funny enough. And it started off really well to begin with, in terms of I managed to get a small job as a digital marketer at a small boutique in Cardiff, where I worked alongside the owner. It was a clothing store, but I got to manage so much of it, and I had gotten this job just before I graduated university, so it was great. It was like, right, I finished university, I'm being a digital marketer, so I was running the online store and helping add products to it, manage that, doing the design of it, doing the designs of the email marketing, Facebook, social media, all of that kind of thing. And we did events as well. It was great. I had an amazing time. It was me and the owner, we got along really well. And I would also work in the store as well. So I got to talk to customers, but also help them out. So I was like part staff assistant, part, not staff assistant, customer assistant, part digital marketer. And that was great. And unfortunately, I think I was there about a year, and life happens, and unfortunately the company had to be was shut down. I think it went bankrupt, and it was like, crap, what do I do now? So as LinkedIn is amazing, and so I went on there, put out some, messaged a few people and was like, does anyone have any ideas on, I'd like to go into continue being a digital marketer. Does anyone have any jobs or know anyone that could hire me or whatever it might be? And this person responded back and said, yes, I know someone, let me put you in touch with them, that he's starting up this design agency. He used to work at another design agency as, I think, creative director or whatever, one of those big flashy titles, decided to make his own design studio, and he's looking to hire people. I'll put you in touch. So I met up with this person, and we, from our initial conversations, it sounded like he was gonna employ me, but he ended up saying to me, oh, why don't you, I can't afford to employ you at the moment, why don't you come in as a freelancer? And I was like, I guess this is one of my options right now, or at the time it felt like one of my only options.
Yeah.
And so I decided to take it, and that is kind of how I unintentionally started in the freelance world. I was there working with this company for, I think, about 10 months, something like that.
Yeah. So before we carry on your story, obviously I know where it's heading, but so what was your understanding of a freelancer at that point?
Yeah.
Would you say?
It was sort of like you ran your own business, but you could also hop into other businesses, if that makes sense. So, you take on your own projects, your own clients, you'd manage your own business expenses, your accounting and that kind of thing. But sometimes you would work in-house, agency or a company, so you'd go and visit them, and that would be your client, but you're also like kind of like an employee, but not.
Yes. The legal aspects, it's better for you to be a freelancer, because they don't have to worry about tax, and you have to worry about your own tax as a freelancer being self-employed, and they get the benefits of having you work with them. But that's also kind of my understanding. I have more freedom.
Yeah.
My definition is I have more freedom as a freelancer, where yes, I'm contracted to work so many hours with you, but I can work, like, obviously depending on our agreement, I have more freedom to take on more other jobs and work wherever and however. But yeah, sometimes that's a grey area.
Yes.
Okay. So this leads into the next question of how did you get into freelancing? So basically, do you want to continue that story? So 10 months later, where are we?
Oh gosh, yeah. So like I said, I was unintentionally decided, right, I'm going to do this freelancing shtick, and it was interesting. Now, this is the thing that people need to realize, especially if you are going into freelancing, is the difference between a freelancer and an employee.
Yes.
And what's expected of you, and how it's very different. And if you are just graduating or you're very new into it,
Yes.
you have to be very wary, because unfortunately, as a 22-year-old naive person at the time, I ended up being treated like an employee by this company, and I was expected to be there from like a certain time, I think it was like 10 till 5 every single day, and I didn't take any holidays off as well during that time. And in fact, he went away, the business owner went away to, I think it was France or something, for a couple of weeks, and I had the keys to the office, and I was expected to be in there, which when you're in a situation like that, you can't see the wood through the trees sometimes.
No, and you're young.
And you're young, you're naive. You think that this
first
is normal.
freelancer job, exciting.
And you think that this is normal until someone tells you this is not normal.
Yeah.
And I remember my mum telling me at the time, she was like, this isn't right, I'm pretty sure this is wrong.
Yeah.
But you know what you're like, your mum, your parents telling you, oh, this isn't it, and you're like, you don't understand this industry, that kind of thing. But we know best, of course. Right. Yeah,
we know best. We don't. Actually.
I thought it was normal, and so it was not great. And in the end, I ended up, putting down the keys and sort of saying, you're going to have to find someone else. I'm out. I'm going to invoice you for the rest of it, because this was the other thing about that freelancing thing as well. He only wanted to, despite me having to be there in the office, he was expecting me to be there from 10 till 5 every single day and catch the train. And luckily he used to pay for my travel. But he only wanted for me to invoice him on the hours that I worked. So if I was there from 10 till 5 and I only worked, there was a project that only needed, or a task that only needed to be done, and it would take 2-3 hours, that's all I was going to get paid for that day.
No, you see, this is like, if you're ever in a situation like Emily, this is like super red flag straight away. I want to ask you, did you get a contract before you started?
And that was the biggest mistake.
Right. Okay, so this is important here. And do you know what's so funny? I've done this before where I've worked without a contract because we trust people. Business don't trust people. You trust people when they sign a contract, and then you can trust them.
Yes,
because they're bound to a contract. So make sure if you're going to Freelancer Live, your terms and conditions is stipulated in the beginning, because obviously with this, we're using, sorry that you went through this, but Emily is how not to do it, okay? Yes. Emily 22 is the case study for you right now. So definitely, like, what would you say now you would do different about the situation before we go into this?
So, yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that one in terms of what I would do. Get a contract, and also be firm with your boundaries as well. So if someone is expecting you in at a certain time, or whatever it might be, whether it's contacting you out of hours, anything, you need to have a conversation with that person, and don't be afraid to have that conversation. It's really difficult.
It's so difficult.
Oh my gosh,
it's so difficult even now.
Yeah, like I'm
even now.
Yeah, I'm a lot older and a lot more wiser than I was when I was 22, because I learned from my mistakes. But
you need to know that there is boundaries. You do, like, what's the worst they can say is no, but then you save yourself a headache.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into the headache that Emily's experienced. You don't mind sharing that story,
no,
do you? Okay. So you put down the keys. What happened next?
At the time, he sort of like said, oh, he seemed okay with it. He asked me why I was leaving, and that was my opportunity to say, well, this is what's happened. You treat me like an employee. I'm expected to be here, etc., etc. It also hadn't really been paid at this point either.
10 months.
10 months. Yeah. 10 months not getting paid is crazy. Like I said, I was living at home at the time, so it like wasn't the worst thing. But actually looking back on it, that was terrible.
Yeah.
And partly that was my fault. Being a freelancer, I needed to invoice him, but I didn't. I needed to set up things first, business-wise, in order to invoice, and it was like a mixture. It was partly my responsibility, it was my responsibility, but also they weren't offering as well. It was very greyish area there.
Yeah, because obviously a lot of people will go say, like, the first thing that comes to mind, someone will go, but like, yeah, but come on, 10 months. But bear in mind, everyone, whoever's thinking that, she is only 22. This is her first gig ever. When you don't know what the normal is, like the unscripted contract is, as soon as you've completed the work, you should be invoicing. So every day or every week should have been an invoice technically, right?
Yeah.
But even now, like it's like after 10 months, it's like, obviously if someone is promising you and you're getting the work experience and you're thinking, oh, okay, well, after 10 months, I get like this massive like paycheck.
So yeah, after that, so 10 months came along, but I sent in my invoice. Finally, 10 months worth of work, put in my invoice. And I was happy to agree at the time with that term of, only getting paid for the work that was done, the hours that was done. So, like I said, even if being there from 10 till 5, and I was keeping a record of all of the hours that I had
Yes.
written, that I did. And so I was happy to agree with that. So I put that down on the contract, how many hours I'd worked on, and broke down each project and sent in the invoice. And the invoice amount was only £4,000, something like this.
Wow.
Now, this isn't that long ago. I know that I'm saying like a long time ago, but £4,000 is not a lot.
No,
Nowhere near. Isn't
for 10 months.
For 10 months worth of
Exactly.
work is massively underpaid. And even
like 200 quid or something.
Yeah, so even at my rate of, I think at the time I was charging £20 an hour, and I'm air quoting that.
Yeah.
Despite being there like all the time, it worked out obviously a lot less than minimum wage for full time. And you'll never guess what?
Yeah. What?
He didn't want to pay it.
Oh my goodness.
So
of course.
It was a nightmare.
Oh my gosh. And how did you resolve this? What was going through your head?
Yeah. So there was a lot of back and forth on email. There was a lot of stuff we had agreed in person on email.
Yeah.
Which I thought, okay, I haven't got a contract, but I've got written proof here that he said this, I've said this is what we've agreed about, that kind of thing. But he said, like, didn't want to pay that amount, which was crazy.
No. And it's like, I was just actually thinking whilst you were talking, I'm thinking, like, if there's if there's people that's out there listening to this podcast who is a business owner and you're thinking of getting freelancers, please do your due diligence as well. Like, help educate freelancers too and have a system in place. Like, I think it's both responsibility. Like, it's an equal give and take here. Freelancers are giving you the break here, where like basically pay all the tax and all these. Well, they get to take care of their own tax and so just do your due diligence basically. Okay, so what? So now you're not getting paid £4,000. Did he pay you some of it though?
He paid me some of it. I think he paid half, so maybe like 2,000, something like that, and then was like, I'm not going to pay you the rest.
No.
And so at this point, I ended up taking him to the small claims court.
Yeah.
Which I think I was at 20, this went on for a while, this back and forth, and I think I might have been about 24 now at this point.
Yeah. Wow, that's a while.
Yeah, so it like went on for quite a while, like a lot of back and forth, a lot of, and obviously the time that I was there as well. So I was like, what have I got to lose? It was £500 at the time to take him to a small claims court, which if you're only going to get back maybe £2,000, that's £1,500 difference there. But it was also more about the principle.
Exactly. I agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with what you did.
Yeah, I that was the thing. I wanted to show him that I wasn't going to back down, that I deserved this money because I'd worked for this money. In fact, I should have put in an invoice for about at least 10, 15 grand at that time. The fact that I only put in an invoice for 4,000 was...
You was cutting him slack.
Exactly. I was cutting the deal to begin with.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah, and it was
So how was the
crazy
experience for you? Like, obviously you're 24, small claims court. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it was...
Like, now you're growing up.
Yes.
A little bit like that, you know?
Exactly. It was scary. And it was shameful as well. I felt a lot of shame around it, and it's only taken in the last maybe 2 years that I'm actually now voicing my story and what happened at the beginning of my career, because at the time it was still quite fresh, but also I was fearful of like people finding out who this person was, and or him coming out and, you know, saying, oh, slander and that kind of thing. So I've never mentioned who it is, the name, the business, or anything like that. But I am telling it, you know, my story, my perspective.
And you have the right to.
Yeah.
And I think as well, this is your first. So if we have to just put ourselves in Emily's shoes here, this is her first freelancer gig.
Yeah.
Okay. And her brand reputation, like if word of mouth got out that, oh, don't employ Emily because she's going to take it to small claims court if you don't even like look left or right, you know, like you don't want that on your shoulders. It's too much stress. So I could totally understand, and I empathize so much, and I'm just so sorry that happened to you. But at least now your story and you speaking your truth right now can really help people, like upcoming freelancers, that someone doesn't have to get in that same situation as you did.
Yeah.
You know, that's the benefit of it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Exactly.
So coming back to this moment of your shamefulness, why as well? Like, do you want to expand? Why did you feel shameful?
I don't know. I think it was that, like you mentioned, that reputation as well. I was very new in the industry still, and I didn't want to be like blacklisted from it. You know, I didn't want to have this because it was very stressful and very upsetting. And you know, I'm this 23, 24-year-old person going up against this bloke who's, I don't know, in his 40s or 50s, and you know, typical businessman, and I'm just like felt so small in comparison to him.
But you showed up, regardless of how you might have felt during that experience. You showed up, and you showed him. What was the agreement at the end? So you don't mind me asking?
Yeah.
I'm curious. Eh? Everybody wants to know.
So we went. We both turned up in court, and which I thought was I didn't know that he was going to turn up at all. I was very surprised, but he did, and the judge kind of bearing in mind I had printed out every single email correspondence that we had had. It was like a booklet, like it was like 100-page document of just emails and emails, what I'd invested in, all of that kind of information for the courts to sort of judge. And despite having all of that, the judge kind of implied that if I was to take it further, I probably wouldn't have, I would probably lose.
Yes.
Because I didn't have a contract.
Yes, contract, and would they say negligence as well? Because you didn't take, you know, there's a little bit aspect of your responsibility too. Sorry.
Yeah.
Devil's advocate.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Yeah. No, you didn't mention that. But it was a case of why don't you go outside and mediate this in our mediation room, have a conversation, and come back in here in 10 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so that's kind of like what the judge said. So we went outside for 10 minutes. We had no mediation before going into court because we both just couldn't agree.
Yeah.
And I thought it was going to be pointless. I thought it was just going to be a screaming match essentially. And so, but we went outside into the mediation room for 10 minutes, which is in Newport. I don't know if it's still the same. It's kind of like this glass room that's got frosted glass window, like frosted glass walls, but it's kind of in the waiting room. So got quite heated, I will say that, between us, and people could definitely hear in the waiting room. So that was quite unprofessional of me. But again, 24, I think I was at the time. I was just, and it was all built up over years and years of.
I would love to be the fly on that wall.
And I think it was more. It wasn't shouted. It was definitely more stern, more like very firm, and did get a bit. My voice did rise. It wasn't screaming like I'm making it out to be, because I'm not that type of person at all.
But you spoke your truth.
I did, and so he agreed to half of the amount. So it was it was £1,000 then that we agreed to. So went in for £2,000. He said, no, I'm not paying that. I'll give you half of that. And I was like, oh, fine, okay. I tried to negotiate more, but he wasn't having it, and so it was like, well, I'll just come away with this. So he did end up paying that, in a when by the deadline that he needed to, which was good, but it was such a massive learning curve. The whole thing was, definitely.
Yeah. Wow, what a story, man. But at least justice was served.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, justice is served, you've covered your bills, at least of the small claims, and wow, what an intense first experience. So I would say now, from that freelancer experience, from them till just before Twofold, did you continue your freelancer life? And also, what was your experiences thereafter? I'm just in your mindset at the moment, like after small claims, and I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, how do you get back in? How do you get back into freelancer life?
Yeah, so what I continued with freelancing. I think I was a freelancer for about 2.5, nearly 3 years, something like that. And I worked again in-house for different companies, kind of, and I had other clients as well. So I continued with it, which I definitely had made contracts then after that incident, and was invoicing properly, so I was getting paid properly then.
Yeah, brilliant. That's good. So who did you freelance for?
There was a few different wedding photography companies and photography companies that sort of, it was all my main client was this person, was this sort of company that had like 3 companies kind of within it. So they were like a photo booth company, and then they also did wedding photography, and also it was a service for photographers where they would get their photos edited for them. So this person owned 3 companies, and I would do a bit of work in each of those companies. So that was quite a nice client to have, because it was like 3 in 1. And then I also had other sort of clients as well. So again, it was very much in that wedding photography kind of industry. So this one was a wedding car company. I had one of them, had a personal stylist as a client, so it was a range.
Right.
Yeah.
And what would you say your highlights and lowlights from freelancer life that you've learned for yourself?
Doing what I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoy doing the design work. I enjoy that. I love doing that, but also I love having full control. Full autonomy is the best. Freedom to pick when you want to work, how you want to work, the process that you want to work, the clients that you get to pick. That's all, so many highlights there. Yeah. So being a business owner compared to being a freelancer, you are kind of sometimes dictated how much you can charge, like how much per hour, that kind of thing, before companies will go, well, I'll just hire another freelancer.
Yes.
Now I'm a business owner, own Twofold, where I decide the price.
Exactly. You
decide
your worth.
Yeah.
It's true though. That's actually a very good point. Lowlights of freelancer.
Oh yeah, definitely taking that guy to a small claims court. I mean, that was low, but also kind of a high, because it was just, I stuck to my guns. I was very happy that I, had the guts to do it at the time, stuck to my principles, so that was also, it was equally a high and a low.
And what about, what other niggles? What other icks?
Other
freelancer icks,
Yeah, I mean, just making sure that you getting your pipeline filled with clients is just a struggle bus all the time, really. You're constantly, once you're doing one project, you're thinking ahead in the future, like, right, how many more projects have I got? I don't have any more. And it's like, where's the money going to come in? And that kind of panic. So that's also a very,
yeah, I also, so right now, because my business is still developing, and I am still relying on some freelancer work, and it's because I don't want to rush, because I've already been in business before when I failed. I didn't want to go in again and not do my due diligence. And for me, because my business is set up is very much, I'm using a lot of social media as it, so that longevity is the key here. And for me, I don't want to focus on one income. I want to focus on many income, multiple income streams. So therefore, I need time. But at the same time, what's really great is that I'm refining myself as within my business. Like, my business is refining, which is fantastic. And I'm doing a lot of digital consultancies, which is fantastic. But there's a lot of people approaching me with freelancer life. And I'm not saying no, because I need, I've got some personal goals and I need the money, okay? But also that money can reinvest into my business. So that's why I'm like, no, I'll take you. Right now, I'm thinking about, okay, I'm going to get paid in March. March, April is the last invoice coming through. So now I'm like, right, I need to grind for future Tash.
Yeah.
Okay? That's something that you learn very quickly. And it comes to our next point about cash flow. Like, for me, I have a 4-5 month contract of invoices coming in per month at a set rate, which is great, but they only last per quarter. So every 4 months they review it, they see, okay, cool, are you good enough, are you still relevant, is there still a budget for you? And then it gets renewed, and then I'm like, okay, cool, I can breathe again for 4 months. But things happen in freelancer world you will not believe, and then all of a sudden you're 2 months no income because of invoicing.
I've been in that situation.
Invoices and cash flow, hun. Let's talk. Deep breath, everyone.
This is the juicy bit that everyone really wants to know as well, because as a business owner, you love to hear about money from other business owners as well, and it doesn't get talked about enough.
No,
either, because I want to know the struggles that other people are going through,
yes,
or the highs and the wins, and to celebrate with them as well. Which doesn't, if people aren't having those conversations, it's good to learn from, and to know that you're not alone and you don't feel like a failure either.
100%. That's why, honestly, when we first spoke, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad. I'm sorry, Emily, but it's so good. It's so good to feel relatable. I think I'm the only one going crazy here, but it's nice to know.
No, we're all going crazy.
Literally. Okay, so tell me about the type of invoices that you've had, or projects that you've experienced in terms of the contracts and things like that.
Yeah, so at the very beginning of my business, I knew that I needed to get a few cheap projects in, because I didn't have a new portfolio. So I lowered what I was gonna eventually start charging. So I think a lot of it was around that £800 mark to even though I had prior experience and prior work experience doing certain design works, because it had been a while, a lot of the projects were outdated.
Yes.
Or they were worked under another company, so I couldn't include that in my portfolio.
Yes.
So I needed something more up to date. So I'm a website designer, so in order to sell my services, obviously you need a portfolio because you need to prove, what you're capable of. And so I needed, a few clients in, so I had a lower rate. And did a few kind of mates rates kind of discounts as well to get those initial ones in. And then I increased the price to, I start now from 1,200 for a one-page website.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else is added on.
Yeah.
So instead of doing what normal website designers do, which I say normal, like lots of other website designers will do, they will say, you get a package and it has 4 to 7 pages included for this price. I don't work like that. I work with, here's the base price, and this is what it'll include. So things like SEO, copywriting, the design, everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else is like added on.
Yes.
Depending on what you need after
Exactly.
having a conversation with that person, what their budget is, because sometimes they might only be able to afford a one-page website at the moment, and that's fine, because especially if you are just starting out in business, and you can have that option of adding those pages on later. So I charge £120, I think, per page afterwards.
Yes.
So it's kind of like really customizable. I've got this calculator thing on my website which visualizes and will show you exactly upfront how much something is going to cost. So everything is tailored to them, but it's priced up kind of beforehand. And what I do is I charge 50% upfront,
yes,
and 50% after, once the work is completed in like the 4 weeks after.
Brilliant. And how much time does it take you to complete a project?
Yeah, around,
obviously it's completely different
around
per project.
3 to 4 weeks roughly.
How many days are you working? Are you working 5 days a week, 4 days a week?
Well, I work not on that project, so that's the other thing. My week is kind of split up between a mixture of working for my business and working on my business.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's it might be 2-3 days working on the project, and then 2-3 days working, doing social media, going to network events, going on podcasts,
literally
talking to people, networking, all of that. So working for my business.
Yeah. So so a few things here that I want to share. Like in the last year, I have taken on a few projects. Obviously, Freelancer. I always say I dated my career this first year. Mm-hmm. Okay, because I just came out of uni and I didn't want to be in a job. I wanted to work for myself, and Freelancer was a way for me to not be working for a corporate client, to have the freedom, like Emily said, about that control. And I got a few gigs that some of it was like what I want to do. I attracted my clients, and because of my lack of brand communication, I attracted some other things because people were like, oh, marketing, Tasha, social media, Tasha. And it's like, okay, cool, but that's not really what I want. But let's just try it anyway. So I worked on, my consultant rate is £50 an hour. And so when it comes to social media stuff, depending on the project and the budget, I would say my freelancer rate is between £35 to £50 an hour. If it's anything doing my consultant, so meaning my knowledge, my skill, is £50 and no less. If it's like for 3 months, like if you have a 3-month contract with me, you get like a 10% off. Yeah. So it's again, talk about cash flow. You guarantee a set of income per month. So I was like, right, I'm kind of trying that out at the moment, which I'm happy with. And it also keeps me like 3 months is a good, safe bet, because you get to date your client too. And you can see if whether you want to continue that client or not. So that's what I like about that. I would be very apprehensive to roll into actually a year contract. As if this is the first time we're working together, I would say no. I would have a 3-month contract and then a 30-day break clause or something. Like I heard Kevin Mansell actually talk about this 30-day, like whatever contract you have, but you have 30 days to actually back out either party, which I like. So you get to date each other. So no one's contracted into doing something that you don't want to do, which is important. I think when you need to know whether your relationship's working or not. And actually in freelancer life, it's okay if it doesn't work out. Just know that it's okay to release a client because you rather attract a client that makes you enjoyable. Like your health and your well-being and your stress comes first. Then in terms of time management, freelancer life, I learned very quickly this last few, like this year has been such a great growth year for me in terms of business life. So time management. If you're contracted to do a certain amount of time, you need to stick to that. So you need to have your due diligence of being able to manage that time. But also, like I said, I am trying to build my business. So if I've got, like I started to go like, right, this client is every Tuesday. This client is every Wednesday. And in between is like, okay, this is my business day. This is my podcasting day. And then I need to also go out and meet and network with everybody. So it's like, you know, people make fun of me because I stay in the studio till like 2 o'clock in the morning. And they're like, oh, Tasha, basically, like, what time did you stay up tonight? And it's because of this. It's because I am doing too much. But no, I'm not. I'm living my best life right now. But at the same time, I'm still, like this week, Global Entrepreneurship Week, you know, there was 2 workshops I needed to attend for business growth. Yeah. Which means, guess what? Like, and also Global Entrepreneurship Week means my freelancer life needed more, like the double hours this week, which means my business and everything else got pushed aside because I needed to grow. So that time management is so important. So how do you manage your cash flow?
At the moment, so what I use is a software called Dubsado, which is really cool. I really enjoy using it. And what that does is it's a CRM, it's a project.
How much do you pay for that, if you don't mind me asking?
It's $40 a month, I think. So it works out, I think it's something like £33 a month. It works out to be.
What does it do?
And so it's you can invoice clients on there as well, but also it's it's like a project manager, an invoice software, and a CRM all in one. And it's fantastic for organizing your clients and your emails and your time. And it has a client portal as well. So if you ever have clients that need to upload stuff, they have this portal that's custom to them, and they can upload stuff. So that's also kind of handy. I haven't really dabbled too much in that area, but yeah, it's really great. So what happens is I've got forms embedded on my website that are inquiry forms. So when someone fills that out, it goes straight into Dubsado, and I can schedule, send them I could send them an automated email response from Dubsado, which comes from it looks like it comes from my email address, which it does, but it's done third party through it. I haven't set automations up with it yet because I've just not needed to.
Yeah.
But so if you are, getting a lot of inquiries in, like that is one way of using it. It has all of the emails in there as well, your correspondence back and forth. You have your notes, and doing that saves so much time. So
I'm gonna give another version to Emily. So those who don't have the budget for £40 a month, like myself, because I decided to pay off my debts first. It's honestly, it's like I all of these platforms I want to invest in, but for me at the moment, because I'm recovering post-COVID, I'm literally like every penny counts. But think about this time, yeah? This is the different case studies here. So I spent 6 hours on Saturday doing invoice forecasting. Okay. Yeah. I know this sounds crazy, but business is doing good, really good for me at the moment. Yeah. So my income has increased a lot.
Yeah.
And that means tax is coming.
Yeah.
Right. So I wanted to make sure that I stick to a budget to be able to go, okay, cool. What tax do I need to pay? Because I also don't have an accountant. I'm only sole trader at the moment. We'll talk about that as well. So I don't have accountant yet. Okay. And the reason is because my income isn't a lot for me. Like it isn't at that stage yet, in my personal opinion, to pay £200 a month or £200 a time for accountant, whatever the price is at the moment. So I am like, everything is manual, and like I then do budgeting for my lifestyle, because I'm learning how to be an adult as well. So like I've got my budget, and I'm like, right, okay, cool, this is set out, this is set out, this is set out. But that took me freaking 3 hours, and I was like, the reason why, I mean, not 6 hours, because I wanted to forecast. In 3 years' time, though, how cool is this? 3 years' time, I'll be debt-free.
Nice.
I'll have savings for my deposit for my house. And also, that's why, like, I needed to know my benchmark of what my income needs to be, so that I know how to plan for the future, of how much work and to manage my cash flow, how much, okay, cool, I don't have any leads coming in, quickly go. So that's the reason why. But that's time. Look at that, 6 hours of my time on my day off.
And time is money.
There you go. So £40 a month, actually, well, not even 40, £33 a month is actually an investment.
Yeah.
More than anything.
That is
from this conversation, really.
That's the most expensive thing that I pay out to for my business. And I don't have a lot of outgoings for the business because of the nature of it. But yeah, that is one that I've definitely found saves so much time, and it keeps a record of everything, which then means I can spend time working on other projects. And also, I mean, I'm not going to lie, but I love a good Excel spreadsheet. Oh, yes, me too. Google Sheets. I use Google Sheets.
Me too.
Now.
Me too. I'm on Microsoft Excel. I mean, not Excel, but Google Sheets all the way.
Yeah, I've got my whole business is organized in Google Sheets.
Me too. I love it.
Cash flow setup. I've got everything that you just mentioned. It's all in there, and yeah, it'll be interesting. Because again, I'm in that first year of business. I'm treating this year like an experiment.
Yes.
In that, when I first started up the business this year, I was going to run under my trade, my name, Emily Lewis. And then I pivoted, changed it to Twofold, and pivoted it to being from just websites for everyone to being just service-based businesses. And I changed the design of it, and it's just that whole trying lots of different things, seeing how it goes, and finding out again, that's one area of the experiment, but also finding out which months are going to be better months, which ones are going to be the months that hardly bring in anything.
Yes.
I discovered, was it August and September, kids are in school, kids are off school, so that means a lot of the businesses that I work with, their teams are out of office quite a lot of the time, which means that they don't want to take on projects because they're managing childcare, so those months are a little bit sketchy, for example, and I know that now for next year.
Yeah.
So it means I can plan much better my cash flow for next year.
Yes, exactly this. Yeah, my busy season is end of the year, now.
Right.
And also to solidify contracts for, so I have realized, all partners, if I want to make new partners and develop relationships for next year, get in now before Christmas hits, because the budgets are being signed off, everybody's prepping for next year. I've now been on this creative business roadshow, which is pretty cool, for next year. So they're being marketed for drop-in surgeries and stuff. So people could just drop in, have a conversation with me. It's really important for my business because I get to go out and talk to people and my brand reputation and being out there. So all these little things add up to business. Honestly, even Emily coming on the podcast, stuff, you just never know where a lead's going to be. So your touch points need to be everywhere in that point. Okay, cool. So thank you so much for sharing about being so open about that. Your cash flow. It's such a taboo subject because no one wants to talk about it. Like honestly, I've learned so much in this last year. Like so much. Like I've been fully self-employed since only February this year. Like, well, no, not even February. I would say March, beginning of March. And like I am on universal credit because of the cash flow situation. So if you're obviously universal credit has this contingency if you're self-employed, but it's our overall house income, so it's not eligible for everybody, which sucks, to be honest, in my opinion, because it's like we are our own individuals. But anyway, I get universal credit. I did it as a backup because in March I was in a tricky situation where I had, like, even though I was working for my freelancer gig, I wasn't getting paid. And the first time I got paid was, I think, May.
Right.
So I had 2 months, no income. And I was luckily universal credit. You go for your interview, do all your thing. But now, again, because I was waiting for contracts to be signed, so I've learned again, I need to develop a contract like 1 month prior to the deadline.
Yeah.
it's really it's like a whole other level. But not everybody rolls like that because I'm with a corporate client, which is they do 30. Like, come on, a big corporation. There's loads of things happening. If you're working independent business to independent business, it's a little bit easier because people don't roll on a 30-day invoicing schedule, and it's more easier. Like if me and you had to do a contract now, it'll just be like boom, paid, done, do the job. Where for me, I'm going through a bigger corporation, so I have to wait for the PO number. I have to wait for first the contract needs to be agreed, then the PO number needs to go, and then the invoicing can start. And that whole process can take so much time you wouldn't believe. So I've learned so much about cash flow, managing my own habits. You just become super savvy with money, and it's a learning curve. And as much as we can tell you on this podcast exactly our experiences, in reality, it's you just don't know. You just don't know what you are going to be faced with.
That's the thing. I recently did a talk at College Gwent, and it was sort of again about my journey from being a student to being a sole trader. And one of the questions was like, how much do you earn? And fair play, like that takes guts to ask that question. I'm going to answer it. And I said, sometimes I make thousands in a month. Sometimes I make zero. I make minus because I've got my expenses going out. So it's all about balance. And, things like sometimes you've got to weigh up those where you want to, sometimes you might want to outsource something in your business to save time. So like I said, with this Posado, I use that and it saves me time, which means I can get another project potentially in. Like, for example, that, like I said, my one-page website start from that are £1,200. I could probably complete that in about 3 or 4 days maximum. And so if I was spending that time doing my stuff manually, I wouldn't have that time to do the project, or it would be longer, or I wouldn't get paid as quick. So 33 quid for me means that I could fit in another project, which is 1,200 quid. So it kind of like, it depends on where you want to outsource. There's definitely, I'm still very new to my, business is very new to me. And so there's definitely areas I will not outsource because I just cannot afford that.
No.
But I do get an accountant at each year to do like a self-assessment. Someone that I paid is about £120 because, and I will tell you this one, and this is going back to my freelance days, right? Just sneaking this in there.
Yes.
I didn't fill out my self-assessment properly the 1 year, actually technically 2 years, because I had some bad advice and didn't fill it out properly. And the government website is, I'm not going to lie, like it is shocking to use. I'm someone who's very competent with using websites. I'm also not very old. how it is designed is
Too much.
It's too much. It really overwhelms me. And also I didn't fill it out properly, and I had a fine come through for £1,000, and it freaked me out. You know, it's like £1,000 is a lot of money at the end of the day, and it was, so I had this.
What was the fine about?
It was because I didn't fill out the self-assessment properly.
What did you go wrong?
It was something like I filled it out for the wrong year. So it, instead of being like the year previous, it was like the year before that. Also, it was very weird. I'd gotten someone to help me do it at the same time because I didn't know, and they did it wrong. This was my my bad kind of thing, and they wrote it off, thankfully.
Wow.
But this is why I do the like £100 for you.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Can you recommend that accountant?
So I've used Mazuma, but I've also I might be using someone else going forward, potentially, who is just like a smaller business. So I want to support smaller businesses.
Yeah, awesome. Perfect. Wow, so much value, hey? I love it. Okay, so let's come back to the last two questions before we wrap it up. What would you say your most valuable learning experience from freelancing? I would say that you can take into your business, actually, because you've talked a little bit about your business. So
yeah, so that contracts, like I said, the boundaries, organising your time, your cash flow, outsourcing when you need to as well. So identifying your strengths and identifying your weaknesses, and where you are struggling, get some help. Whether that's some advice or a course that you go on, or whether you YouTube something, and you know, there's so much out there, or whether you just hire someone to do it for you, so then you can spend time doing what you're actually great at. And it's just like balancing that as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So what advice would you share with aspiring freelancers?
That's a really good question. Do it.
Yeah, do it.
Do it. If you can, I was very, very lucky that I lived with my parents. I acknowledge that is a privileged position to be in as well. So I was able to start off freelance and not get paid and all of this kind of thing because I was living at home, which not everyone has that opportunity to do. But if you can, do it, start slow. Don't have crazy ambitions. I know that sounds a bit negative, but it's managing expectations. In the first 3 years of your business, 3 to 5 years, it's gonna be really, really tough, because that is just how it is. Most businesses fail within that time, and it's acknowledging that and being real about it as well. And so start slow, take it easy, get a job, and do this in your spare time if you can, an hour before work, an hour after, whatever it might be. And but just give it a go.
Yeah, I definitely think I'm gonna add on to what you've said. I love that idea about if you have a choice.
Yeah.
I know sometimes we don't have a choice. So these are the two I would say, if you have a choice and if you don't have a choice. So if you have a choice, definitely make sure that if you have your part-time job, then you at least can see if freelance life is for you. Because so the pros and cons for me is it was lovely to have a fixed salary coming in and out every month from my job, from being a digital marketing executive. I loved the money aspect of it.
Yeah.
The stability of the money. And whether you felt like you failed that day, you were still making that money. However, I even know now I could walk and get a £50,000 a year salary job, but the micromanaging, the just the pressure, the limitations for me surpasses the money. So for me, I wholeheartedly, even if my business, for instance, wouldn't worst case scenario, my business never is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
I would still stay in freelancer life because of that freedom of I can refine my skills. Someone's coming to me for my expertise. I get to be this, like, I just be in control and I get to do what I love. And like, life is too short for you to just not do what you love. And I think there's this weird aspect of the business life at the moment where, or corporate life, where, yes, we do have this new era coming in where it is developing a really good workspace, and that, you know, we love what you do, we trust what you do, we, you know, all this good stuff, but that still is developing in our world. We still have this big aspect of business where your mental well-being is not being taken care of, and almost you have to have 5 different degrees to just do this one job. So like, it's just expectations versus reality is just too much. So if you're thinking about freelancer, try it and know that, you know, some clients are going to be, not every client is your dream client, but if you're just dating, you have a dating phase. And later on, you can go, no, this is what I want to attract. This is what the communication I need to do. And this is what I'm going to have. But I personally, I am making more money than what I was now when I finished my 4 days a week job.
Yeah.
So, hell yeah.
You know what? After that 2-3 year bit where I did freelance, I actually went back into employment and gave up freelance for like 4 years, something like that, because of those exact reasons. I kind of felt a bit burnt out, and I wanted that stability of income coming in, and so there was no shame. I just was like, you know what, freelance doesn't work for me anymore. I'm gonna stop it. And then I was employed for like 3-4 years, and so, but then that's when I was like, you know, I'm fed up of working like this now. Again, it was sort of that I'm not a control freak as such, but I definitely like to manage myself, my time, how the processes work. I'm very efficient, and I find it frustrating when sometimes companies aren't, and you spend a lot of your time at work. So if things aren't working properly, it can build up. And so it was, I decided, you know what, I want to do I want to start my own business again. And so it's trying something out at that point in your life, and it might not be the right point. It might be something that you go, you know what, I'm going to give it up now. I'm going to spend a few years employed. You might come back to it. It's just, life can change.
But yes, so that is our advice. We just do have a few questions that I thought we could do before we wrap up, Emily, if that's okay. I have no idea how to price myself or my work.
Ooh, okay. So yeah, that's really good. A good starting point is obviously to see what other people in your industry, the jobs that you are doing, are doing. So you get like that idea of that competitive kind of price. Obviously, there's people out there, for example, in website design world, there's people who charge 100 quid for on Upwork for a website, and then there's people who charge hundreds of thousands of pounds. And obviously there's going to be a difference in quality as well, and what you get out of it. So it's kind of finding out where you fit, but also how much you're willing to like back yourself as well. So at the moment, I upped my prices. I want to up them. I'll be upping them again next year. Gonna up them again following year, and because as well, I'll have like that more experience, that more confidence, Google reviews, more whatever it might be, and I will have that portfolio back in to say, here's what I'm worth. Here's why I'm worth it, and here's what I can do for you. And also, it's a case of, it depends on how you approach things as well. Like I said earlier, freelancers and like virtual assistants are sort of typically can end up charging that lower rate as well. Sometimes, just because it's kind of society's perception of it,
Yeah.
rather than hiring a business.
Yes.
In which case they can charge like, a project might cost like 10 grand with by hiring by hiring a company. By hiring a freelancer, the project might be budgeted a lot lower. So if you want to sort of make more money, sometimes it is better to go down that business route and position yourself as a business owner rather than a virtual assistant or a freelancer. Sometimes it's that mindset difference as well.
Yes,
that can sway it.
Exactly. I also operate under Lorna Media. I don't operate under Tasha Cole at all. Everything's gone through Lorna Media since day one. I would add, so I personally don't think that you should work for less than £25 an hour unless you're new in the game and you're getting started. You want to build your portfolio, as Emily said. But think about tax. So if you're going to do £25 an hour and you take tax away, you're basically left with £20, right? So minimum wage is about £12 an hour, basically, like it will be eventually next year. At this rate, it's like £11 now an hour. Compare it to the hourly rate. And then obviously you need to think about, like, are you going to charge per hour? Are you going to be project based? So this is how I do mine. I have £50 an hour, and then I have a day rate of 6 hours for £250. So if you had to work 6 times 50 is 300. So I give people £50 off if you book for a day. And then obviously if you have me for longer than the project, and it's like months, you get discount because I'm guaranteed income basically. So I'd rather, like, that's just working for me at the moment. And then I've developed packages for my business, which you could develop as a freelancer too. Really, I did my market research and I was like, right, this is what, like, my one-to-one consultant is going to take 1.5 hours, and then we need a follow-up appointment. Then I was like, right, I'm going to build this into packages, and this is what they get. And that's when you know how many hours the project's going to take, and then you can do. I know that there's a lot of graphic designers, mural artists that I've actually spoken to. And what I would say with this is, because drawing and doing things, like, it's still time. So the drawing, you have that time to, like, sketch and draw. Like, sometimes, like, someone said about designing a poster, okay? A poster, she said to me, oh, it could take me like 8 hours to do what they want me to do. So I said to her, I'm like, why don't you give them 3 versions? Why don't you give them, okay, if they've only got budget for like a £20 like, just for argument's sake, £20, £50, £100, right? That's the 3 levels. You go, okay, you only got £20. Okay, these are my 3 prices. This is what a £20 poster is going to look like. This is what a £50 poster looks like. This is what a £100 poster look like. It's okay to give them different versions, because then they'll go, oh, I actually want to pay extra like £80 for the £100 poster. So it's like giving people options that, if it's always good to understand their budget. So I worked with someone before and I worked with their budget. So as a consultant, I gave them books to read, actually, and videos to watch, because I was like, actually, you're going to waste your time with me teaching you that. Why don't we use this £500 budget and work to this? And this is the value that you can get out of me to optimize your budget. But I'm not losing my time, and they getting the most value out of it. So it really is bespoke in that way. It's like, how long is a piece of string type of question. But there's just so many different ways. But I really like going in with, when you have, like, people have got different budgets, because obviously Emily's different because of her website now. But, like, she's backed herself up by having, this is the one page and add-ons, which is really cool, because then they can work to that budget. Yeah. How can I get more people to like my freelance page and posts online?
As you know, I come from a marketing background, so even though I'm doing websites now, obviously I can answer those kind of questions as well. And the fact that I'm a solopreneur, I'm doing it all myself as well. Yeah. So getting more likes, follows, that kind of, having your posts sort of change depending on the platforms really help as well. So having video content is actually what I want to talk about, because that is massive now.
Yeah.
With things like TikTok and Instagram Reels and Instagram Stories, there's a lot of push for videos, and YouTube as well. YouTube is actually the second largest search engine in the world, the second after Google, and YouTube is owned by Google as well. So sometimes you notice...
Yes, Emily, speak the truth.
Yes, so sometimes you notice that if you type something in on Google, it'll give you options for YouTube in the search results as well. So there's a lot of push for video. Not being afraid to get on video is also incredibly important. You don't have to do silly dancing. You don't have to do anything like that. It's finding what works for you and your business, and that short form content, or if you're on YouTube, longer form content works really well.
Yeah.
If you want to have something longer, chuck it into bite-sized pieces for social to kind of tease that bigger picture. Video content is really great for engagement as well, and people can connect more with it, I find, than static imagery as well, because you feel like you're maybe getting to know that person more, you want to follow their journey, or you want to know more about them, compared to just like static photos. You can't get that sense of depth from it.
LinkedIn is for me my number one platform with getting followers at the moment, to be honest. Obviously YouTube, like I'm obsessed with YouTube. That's why I was like all over it. Okay. But obviously to be an add-on to Emily, of course. So yes, YouTube, but LinkedIn is a place to showcase your brand story. And even if it's your personal brand story, if you are a virtual assistant, if you're a graphic designer, if you are whatever the case might be, sharing your personal journey and story, like jumping on, so what's really, really good for impressions, by the way, is go to Stephen Bartlett's Stephen Bartlett's page and just repost like all of his stuff and put like a quote of it. But honestly, I don't do that as a tactic. I just do it as I actually can relate to a lot of what he shares, but I've been watching my impressions lately, so that gets a lot of engagement for my thing. And reposting different posts from different people, and being able to, like, it's, again, social media platform is about that engagement. You've got to engage in the platform, okay? Each platform you take on. And if your clients are on LinkedIn and you're posting constantly on Instagram, you're missing an opportunity here. Like, Instagram is cool, YouTube is cool, but like knowing where your audience is, like your personal brand, where you want to grow and your clients are. So for me, the way I post on LinkedIn is completely different to Instagram and on YouTube. So I love sharing my story as me having Freelancer. What's really worked well with the video on LinkedIn is, again, having a short form clip of, like, say this is going to be on there, there's going to be like a moment of this, but using that with different types of form of content, not just video, but maybe like writing, like I use LinkedIn as like a little blog post of like my thoughts or my journey, or like a case study of the clients I've had. I don't really sell on LinkedIn. I talk about my brand because it's obviously talking about how do I get people to like my page, basically, is the question here. You have to, like, people buy into stories and a brand and like an experience. So show them who you are and what you do, and like your background and your, like, people that you've worked with. Like, I love a good BTS story. Like my friend and co-worker here, Cooked Illustrations, Ian, shout out to him. He's at MIT at the moment, and he's sketching each speaker. Because he's like, he does illustration and like the way he absorbs information is by sketching. He's sketching each like speaker, and then he's sharing that post on LinkedIn. And I love seeing that because it's the behind the scenes of who he is. We're not robots, we're people, and it's nice to share that. So definitely, like, use each platform and nurture it and test content, test. And then something really cool is when you're out and about, don't give a business card. Say, hey, what's your LinkedIn? Hey, what's your Instagram? Hey, what's your... That's what I do.
Yeah.
Like,
Depending on who it is, I either give them a business card or I'm or sometimes I'm like, here's my business card, but also, right, what's your name on LinkedIn?
Yes.
You know, let's add each other now. That's fantastic. And it's consistency on social media as well, because what you don't want to do is you have a piece of content that, you know, has a great opportunity, you know, it's a really great piece of content, but then after that greater content, or it's not related to what you had originally posted, someone who comes across that piece of content probably will want to see more of that type of content as well.
Be consistent and be relevant. You're right. You're so right. We can literally spend the whole podcast talking about this question, to be honest. I've just realized, like, because we both are like, we know a lot. That's the thing. We've got loads of value to share today. Okay. So, the last question. Mm-hmm. Can you believe there's another one? Okay. How can I make more money now I'm freelancing?
Up your rates. Definitely up your rates. Work smarter, not harder. So try to automate things as much as you can. Put in tasks. You know, be really efficient in your tasks as well.
Yeah.
Because then you can spend more time doing the stuff that makes you money.
I'll come with something different as well. So I really had an amazing workshop this week with Neil Cocker, and he said about the million value. It's an MVP, minimum value product.
Oh, minimum. Yeah.
Sorry. I'm thinking like Geordie Shore MVP, MVP, yeah. Like Mike Benny-Foley. But no. Minimum value product is like, now that you're freelancing, it's like, how can you make like different forms of revenue? So it would be like, if you can make a digital asset that can be sold maybe for 10 to 20 pounds that other freelancers will have in your kind of like, because you're freelancing, right? You've done it, you know what's working, you know what's not, you've got your templates, you've got your systems, you've got your flow. There's always, in business, we've always got different levels of like, when you're starting out, when you're like intermediate, and then you're like advanced. So the intermediate can always sell to the beginners, the advanced can always sell to intermediates, and vice versa, the cycle can continue. So like for me, I would then look at MVPs as minimum viable product. It's like, how can you, is there a digital asset that you can sell that can bring you some passive income, whether you put that on your website or put it on like Etsy or blog funnel, whatever the case might be. But it's like everything that Emily said, but then looking at other ways of income streams that doesn't take necessarily a lot of your time and money to set up, but can bring you extra money. So even doing like a workshop, or doing a talk with, you know, someone has to pay for your time to do a talk. And it's just thinking outside the box. Is like freelancing, you don't have to really box yourself into it's like service versus money. There's also other ways to make money, even though of course you've got to honor your value, your time, and all that good stuff, because it's literally a combination of what we've said and more.
Exactly that. With me, I make money from the websites, obviously, designing them, but also support afterwards as well is like a separate service. And so I charge differently for that. It'll be like one-off little tasks. And so I get revenue from that side of things. So it's not just big projects.
Yes.
It's those little things that come in where people are like, can you upload this photo? Can you upload this blog post? Sure, that's no problem. That's X amount of money. And that's like other little bits coming in. And doing those workshops and talks, I've done like a few this year, gotten paid to do that. And it's like, cool. It's finding other ways of making money and taking opportunities. That's what I'm saying.
And what just to add, because it's client retention aspect of it. Like, you don't always have to have, again, coming back to Neil Cocker, he's getting all the value now, like, shout out. But he said about, like, reminded me of, you know, the funnel of the awareness, getting it in and then converting. Yes. But once someone's converted, you can actually, what is your retention and loyalty scheme within that? Yes. So that's exactly what you've just said about the ongoing support, etc., etc. So definitely there's loads that you can do to up your freelancer game. Okay, That's a wrap. Emily,
Lovely.
thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
And guess what? She's going to be back for another episode because she's not only got Freelancer Live, she's also got digital marketing background. And then we're going to dive into also the business background too. Yeah, 3-part series. Here we go. So if you like today's episode, please give it a thumbs up. Please to follow on Instagram, on YouTube, and check out the show notes as well. This is going to be one big podcast to digest. I'm not using AI, everybody. I use myself. And also, remember, we are on Apple Podcasts as well, Spotify, and YouTube. Please do follow us and write a review. I'd love to know about how you're enjoying the LORNA experience. This has been an amazing time. Have a great day. Till the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.